What up? It's Ibn Webb, Quran, the Sum here. Official Thanksgiving going down here. Got Essex County all day edition here. Got me a boxing Hall of Famer here, Dave Fields. Uh, just want to say what's up to Mike, his brother here, for hooking this up and setting this all up here. Like I said, just the world of boxing obviously is your ups, your downs, and a lot of ways to maneuver through it. I know Dave is a boxer, he's an official now, what have you here. But just growing up in good old Essex County, East Orange here, just looking forward to just hearing a little bit of his story here. Like I said, I just appreciate the blessings, and particularly, Dave being, kind enough to jump on here. So let's just hold tight and get to it. There we go. There we go. Now, appreciate it, Mr. Fields. I really, really, really appreciate this here, taking some time out. Like I said, I'm totally honored, and I appreciate your brother here. 'Cause like I said, he threw me the plug here. So I really appreciate him just doing that. So I appreciate you just taking some time out. First and foremost, hopefully you're well, family, everybody's up and running, safe and sound here with all this going on here.
Yeah, everybody's good, man.
Good, good, good. Yeah, so not sure what you've heard about this. I know we talked a little bit here, but like I said, it's just something I just started, and just it's been a blast just getting a chance to meet, brothers such as yourself here that I might have heard about my travels throughout my life or actually seen, depending on who the individual is. So just to hear a little bit small part of your journey here. So like I said, and that's kind of been the gist of it, nothing crazy. But like I said, that's just kind of how it's been, and I really appreciate this.
Thank you, bro.
So with this being said here, I know you're East Orange guy. Did it originally start from there, or you eventually just ended up in East Orange?
I'm actually from Newark, born and raised in Newark. We moved to one of my mother's cousin was killed in a Newark riot. So shortly after that, we actually moved a couple blocks over the East Orange Newark borderline into East Orange. So I actually grew up in East Orange the latter part of my life, but we was 2 blocks from Newark. So our basketball court was actually in Newark. That's how the borderline was.
Yeah. Now, how was it for you growing up? I mean, again, big family or how was it?
Oh yeah, it was I got 3 brothers, and it was, the neighborhood was rough, coming up as a teen. There's a lot of opportunities out there in the street, you know what I mean? And good and bad, and you kind of like at a teen, you can either go a little to the left or a little to the right. And then what happened was with me as a teen, I think the summer I was in the 10th grade going to the 11th grade is when I got into boxing, because a couple of friends of mine, they started going to the West Side Boys Club, which is in Newark, Littleton Avenue. So, I grew up in little housing projects in East Orange, and a bunch of us, we ventured to the boys club, and it probably was about 15, 20 of us the first couple days, and each day that group just grew less. So probably I say within a month or 2, it was 4 of us.
Okay.
And then actually 3 of us started fighting, and once we started fighting, my life changed from other sports to strictly boxing, because I grew up, playing little football, Pop Warner. I played with the Panthers of East Orange and everything. I should have played high school football, but I remember when I went out for the freshman team, I practiced for about maybe 2 weeks, but I was a freshman in high school, man. And it was like I remember the football practice. You got out of school at 3:00 and you had to be on the field at 3:05. So you had to actually run from school to football stadium, which was probably like a 15-minute run, 10, 15-minute run. So
now, because did y'all practice at, was it Martin Stadium y'all practice at? Or?
Yes. And I just, one day I lost interest and I didn't go that day. Then the next day, and with organized football, stuff like that, you miss 2-3 days, you kind of like done. So I kind of just like walked off myself and, I didn't play. And I was like, I'll play next year. Then when the 10th grade came, I was like, I still got my junior, senior year. And then that particular summer is when I discovered boxing. And when we played football, you played football from September, where you started practice in August, all the way to maybe November, December. Then you had to wait for June for the football banquet to get one little trophy. Whereas when I had my first amateur fight as a boxer, I'm still sweating, hadn't even got out the ring, and boom, here's my trophy right here. Mm-hmm. And this is why I'm doing this, for the trophies. And what happened is when I got that first little trophy, man, is like I just went home, man, and the little guy used to talk to me at night, you know what I mean? And then I started getting more, and every time you fight, you get a trophy, whether you win or lose. And then it was like, the rest is history, man. And, I just left all other sports and, just by the wayside, it was just, I figured my calling was boxing,
What was it? What was the draw?
Box too, man,
Yeah. What was the draw as far as to boxing? What drew you in?
Well, really, it was basically, I'm gonna tell you a story. I remember, I think I was a freshman, and I went to a football game. Central High School played East Orange, and man, these guys from Central, I remember I went to the bathroom, and these guys was in the bathroom, and they was taking this guy's clothes and his money, and I was so scared, man, and I was like, I gotta learn how to fight, man, because I just, money was tight. You was lucky if you got a couple dollars, and, for somebody to take your money, it was like, I just wasn't having it, and boxing, it teaches discipline, and also it teaches you not to be scared of nobody too, because after a while, there was guys, I remember there was 2 guys from the neighborhood, and when they used to come in our little projects, man, we used to just scatter. 2 guys, 2. They wasn't bigger guys, they wasn't older guys, but when they came around, everybody ran. And I remember one day running, I was like, why are we running? There's 2 of them and 10 of us, because we playing football, basketball. And they was like, man, those guys are so bad. But anyway, long story short, when I started boxing, one of those guys just happened to come to the gym one day. By now, I've been in the gym maybe 2 months, and lo and behold, this dude can't fight. Yeah. He can't fight a lick. But the thing was, back then, a lot of people, it was the way you talked, and some guys had the look or whatever. And a lot of times you think guys can fight, but they really can't fight. Most of those guys out in the street causing trouble, they can't fight, man. So.
Oh yeah, nah, definitely here. And that's interesting too. And obviously just getting up in the gym down there in North Care, like, so once you just got going, was it just pretty much every time you turn around, that's where you was headed? That was your thing? You go to school or do whatever, but you was in the gym pretty much day in and day out?
Day in and day out, because basically, and then I started noticing, it's like my friends, like I said, we grew up in the projects, and when we went to the parties, it was like 15, 20 of us sometimes, and then, we was in separate little cliques of 3s and 4s, and guys started, like I said, when you get to those teenage years, people started going a little to the left and the right, like it was one particular group, they started shooting drugs, then was another little group started getting in trouble. And I started seeing my friends going to jail, coming home. Matter of fact, one of the 4 guys, remember I said it was 4 of us, and then it was actually 3 of us who actually started fighting. Mm-hmm. One particular guy, I'm not going to say his name, we all started fighting, and he had about maybe 4 or 5 fights, maybe 6. But he actually only won 1 fight. and his fights were so close. In the amateurs, somebody has to lose, so he lost. So I think after about 4 or 5 losses, he got discouraged. He stopped boxing. So he was a grade ahead of me in high school. Anyway, this particular guy, ever since he stopped boxing, he started going to jail. Now this was 1970, 75, right? So by 76, 77, this guy was doing little jail bits, 6 months, then you go back again, it's 18 months. And it was just a complete cycle of just keep doing the same thing over and over. And that particular guy spent like the last 30 years of his life, 35 maybe, going back and forth to jail. So that kept me, from, I was lucky, that kept me off the street and, kept me away from, drugs and, boxing just saved my life.
Yeah.
Because I would have definitely been a statistic, whereas I either been in jail, probably dead, it's, list goes on, man.
Yeah. Nah, the normal casualties of being around the way and growing up. To your point here, you was able to escape it with boxing here. Who was first person who took you under their wing?
Well, I remember when I was a senior in high school, 1977, I'm still in the gym now. By this time, we had moved to the West Side Boys Club had closed down on us, probably the latter part of 76. So 77, enter, I started going to this gym. It's called A Street Gym in Newark. It was kind of like a professional gym. And I started boxing. I had this guy was a trainer. His name was Lester Miller. He was an older gentleman and they said he used to box with Joe Louis back in the day. So at the time, he was training a guy named Reggie Jones. Reggie Jones was from Newark and had fought in the 1972 Olympics. And he won the silver medal. So when I came to A Street Gym, Lester also trained Reggie. So me and Reggie started boxing every day. That's usually how it works. You box with the guys that's, around your size and your age. And, sometimes, you box professionals, and I started getting better. And then probably a little while later, Marvin Hagler came to the gym and I didn't know who he was. And his manager asked me, would I box him? Did I want to box him? And I was like, who are you talking about? He said, the guy right there. I said, the bald head guy? He was like, yeah. I said, sure, no problem. So anyway, they came, he had lost to he had lost a fight to this guy from Philadelphia named Willie Monroe, and they was having a rematch. And Willie Monroe was tall like me, and this is probably why his manager looked at me and was like, wow, that kid is like the spitting image of Monroe. Slim, tall, long neck, and he could box. So anyway, like I said, they came to box with Reggie, and Reggie went first, and then I boxed Marvin, and man, let me tell you, I boxed his nose off him, man. The whole gym stood up on their feet and they clapped for maybe 2 minutes. I couldn't believe it because, like I said, I didn't know who he was, anything, and I just, it was just something to me about boxing, that I like to do, man, and this guy was in there trying to kill me, and I was putting it on him, man, and they liked me, and the next was history. So what happened is they came back the next day, and we boxed every day for like maybe a month, and then they went to I forgot where the rematch was at, but anyway, they fought the rematch, and he knocked Monroe out, I think, in the 12th round that fight. And then back then, and if you beat me and then I beat you, you would have that third fight. So at the third fight, 6 months later, he came back to Newark, and me and Reggie boxed with him again. This time, they fought at the Spectrum, and they gave us tickets, and we went to see him fight Willie Monroe, and he knocked Monroe out in the second round. I'll never forget that day of my life. And It was like I just couldn't believe what I was seeing, what I was witnessing, and it was a beautiful thing, man. It was,
Just sharing it here, I'm getting chills, and I was nowhere near. I wasn't even thought about pretty much back then. So just to hear that, that your first actual professional fight you went to?
Uh, I'm trying to no, that wasn't my first professional fight because as we was amateurs, we used to go because when we were amateurs, there was a guy who was friends with us, but he was a professional, and he boxed out of New York. Name was Terry Turner. He got killed probably a couple years later, man. But yeah, we used to go to the Garden and buy the cheapest tickets to sit at the top. And back then they didn't have the jumbo screens and everything, so you barely fight. And I remember we had like one pair of binoculars, and they used to pass them around to everybody. And, you can see a little bit, but it's nothing like being at the fights, And I mean, and then to be so high up at the top, man, and you're enjoying this action like you're ringside. So I couldn't imagine how it would have felt had I been able to actually been close and see these fights,
Wow. And then even
did a few fights be that I definitely wasn't the first fight I saw,
But even for your own growth as far as you as a boxer, just sparring with Marvin Hagler and who else here? I mean, obviously, took you in a direction where you just wanted to do it for yourself here. So obviously the golden gloves and all that, started to come around here. Like it just started snowballing for you, it sounds like too.
Yeah, I mean, like actually that same year when I first met Marvin, that's the year I won the Golden Gloves, 1977, and like I said, I mean, I was, oh man, I was all on cylinders, man, fighting this guy, man. Was this guy? People think, because you might have been young that this guy is playing with you. This guy didn't play with nobody, man. Every day he tried to knock you out. Every day, So I always, said to myself, I got to be pretty good if I can hang in there with this guy, And this guy's a killer.
Yeah.
He was a natural born killer.
Yeah. Now, your own career here, I'll get back to Marvin Hagler in a sec, but your own career, as far as you win the Golden Gloves, now it's like, okay, is it time for me to go pro? Like, when did you make that decision?
Well, there's some things, man. There's a ugly side to boxing.
Yes.
I don't even know, if I should even take you there right now on that. You know what I mean? But I'm gonna just give an example of what goes on. There was a guy who used to come to our gym, older gentleman. He was when we was kids. He was a man. He was a coach. He was a trainer, and he would take kids like myself as we were amateurs, and he would take us to different locations and have us fight. And they would tell you, okay, you're getting, you're making $200. And you got to remember, you don't know the game of boxing. You don't know how much you should make. You know absolutely nothing. You're fighting for trophies. Okay, so when somebody offers you $200 to fight, you got to remember 1977, $200 was like $2,000 today. You could do a lot more with your money. And that's how a lot of us got trapped, So basically, let me give you an example. You got a guy, he takes you to, let's say he takes you to Boston. You're fighting the main event, right, in the show. And you're fighting 10 rounds, or you're scheduled to fight 10 rounds, and a guy tells you, okay, you get $200, but actually you should be getting $1,000, $1,500. So he's taking the rest of your money, and then he's taking a cut of your $200. So that's kind of like how my life started, and then I became a father at a young age. At 19. I had my daughter at 19, and my life changed, man. And so by this time, I'm trying to go to school because my father tried to get me to go to college after high school, and for some reason I didn't want to go to college. I had the brains for it, but I was like, 4 more years of school? Are you kidding me? But I didn't know the difference between, going to college and possibly not going to college, what it would do. But anyway, the first year I sat out, my father said, well, either you go to college or you get a job. And I was like, okay, I'll get a job. And I got a job. I couldn't find a job. All the jobs I had was like cleaning up, sweeping and stuff. And I got tired of that, really making no money. And so I went to school. I went to DeVry Technical Institute. It's called DeVry University now. So I graduated from there in 1980. So I kind of put boxing on pause from about 79. I graduated, and then you're trying to work, you're trying to go to school, and you're trying to go to gym. So basically, be a father, and everyday life, man. It was tough, man. So it was very hard for me trying to do all of that, and you learn, and like I say, in boxing, man, when you have family members that box, then you can be better off as a fighter, because when you got family members that fought, usually the older ones won't let you make the mistakes that they made, and then there's things you don't know, because not everybody's going to tell you everything. Like I used to box with anybody and everybody, but I wasn't fighting, so basically I never really had a fight where, like, I'm in training camp with Marvin Hagler for 8 weeks. So I never had a fight from that training camp. But when you're excluded, somewhere for 6, 8 weeks, and then, you get out, man, and he used to call it jail. Training camp was like jail. So, when you get out of jail, what do? You go start doing things you shouldn't be doing. And then that 8 weeks of shape up leave your body real fast. So
now, what was his training camp at mostly, Marvin Hagler?
He had a spot up in it was called is a city called Provincetown. It's on the tip of Cape Cod.
I'm familiar with that, yes.
Kind of like I forgot how many miles, because they was like from Brockton, which I think is about 20 minutes from Boston. So, but the training camp, because I remember a couple of times we drove there, because it was a long car ride. I think it was about 2-3 hour car ride. Then it was a couple of times I flew up to Boston, and they had this little, like, it was a little small plane. You went like 20 minutes, man. Scariest ride of my life, man. It was, because it was so cold. Usually we went up there, it was always cold, and the plane had to fly low to the water. Oh man, scariest 20 minutes of my life, man, on that. And it was, you could count the seats, counting the pilot. It was 9 seats. The pilot was like, "You want to get up here with me?" I was like, "Nah, I'm back here. I'm okay, man. I'm okay." So you're talking about a 9-seat plane, you're not really used to flying, and man. So anyway, I get to camp, and man, the only thing to do is box, man. So it takes about a week to get into your groove with Marvin, because this guy's a beast, man. And he was then, like, things I know now that I didn't know then. I used to say, why is this guy so big, man? I mean, because he probably was like 180, 90 pounds, man. You know what I mean? When we first started boxing, then after 8 weeks, he slimmed down to 160. I wouldn't say he was 190, but probably he was at least 175, 180, easy. You know, but
Now, how long was you a sparring partner for? How many years?
I boxed with him up until 85. The last every time he fought somebody tall, you know, when he fought taller guys, that's when I went. I liked first
Like Hearns too, even Hearns.
Burns. There was he fought this guy named Fully Obel twice. Felinzi Oberblahias. He was from Caracas, Venezuela. Fought him twice. Willie Monroe. These was all tall guys. Boogaloo Watts, the second fight. I remember I even went out there one time when he knocked out. God, he won the Olympics. I can't think of his name. Ray Seals, Sugar Ray Seals. They fought him up in Boston. I think they fought about 3 times because they had a draw. I think Marvin knocked him out one time. Yeah, they fought either.
Then even also Marvin Hagler. Then Iran Barkley too. You did some work with him as well too, right?
Iran Barkley, that was my man, and he's the man. That guy, man. He could punch, man. Oh my God, he could punch. Iran Barkley, he's a great guy, man. We used to laugh, man. I never had so much fun in the training camp as with Iran Barkley. Because, man, like me and Iran was kind of like the same age, whereas Marvin was like about 5 years older than me. So, I think like when guys are, you're around the same age of a guy, you kind of, plus I was a little older by the time I started boxing with Barkley, but Marvin was a different kind of guy too,
No, probably about a year ago or so, I think I saw they did a documentary on Barkley here.
Right.
I know it was just interesting to just see. I mean, you talk about the ugly side of boxing and the business of it, and just when you're younger, not knowing, and later on, obviously, you develop a kind of a sense as far as how things are supposed to be, and just realize some of the things that folks got away with. And it sounds like his situation was a little bit of that going on too, but he's probably one of many. As far as all that stuff going down.
One time he had 2 managers because it was one guy tricked him into being his manager. It was another guy the young guy had some money and he was trying to sign him. But it was an older guy. He was actually a referee too, who told him that he couldn't be the manager on paper because he didn't have boxing experience. So this guy put up the money and he put his name on a contract as being the manager. So I remember we was in Vegas when Marvin Hagler was fighting Ray Leonard because they told Barkley because it was a big weekend fight because Ray Leonard and Marvin fought on Monday. Iran Barkley fought somebody on Friday, and there was a show, I think it was Donald Curry and somebody fought on Saturday. So all the fights was in Vegas. So it was the whole weekend was a big weekend of boxing. And they already said that everybody just knew that Marvin was going to beat Ray Leonard. So they said, when Marvin wins, he's going to retire. So once he retires, they're going to split the belts back up. So they told Iran if he won this fight on Friday, top rank, that he would be fighting for one of the titles, and which he did. He ended up fighting for the WBA title after that.
Mm-hmm.
Marvin, of course, Marvin lost, and then they still split the titles up. I think Michael Lajide fought for one of the titles. Iran fought for one of the titles, and I'm not sure who else fought for possibly the third title.
Mm. Now, years later, the Marvin Hagler really lose that fight to Leonard? What you think?
Well, I was there the first night, and because I saw the fight, but I was close to Marvin, and in my heart, I felt Ray Leonard won fight by what he actually did, and because he kind of stole the show. He put on the show and then he stole the show, and it's hard to admit, but when you watch the tape and then you watch it over, then you watch it over again, and, you can kind of, then that's one of the fights you got to pull out the pen, and you got to write down who won that round, and then you add it up like the judges do, and then you can kind of, okay, maybe Marvin won, but I just think that night Ray Leonard just had a little more energy, and he just kind of stole the fight, man. Stole the show, stole the fight. To me, that's what he did.
Yeah.
But,
now, interesting you say that. I mean, you get those nights where the stars just align here. So I know. You want to just tap your screen again? There we go.
yeah,
Now, as far as just yourself, as far as you got out the ring, but back in the ring in a different capacity, what made you want to become an official?
Well, it's funny. There's a referee. His name is Benji Estevez, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now back, this is probably back in the days when I was boxing Barkley. I had knew this guy. I did, how you see people every day, but you don't really know them. That's kind of like the relationship I had with him. I would see this guy in the gym a lot, but didn't know him because at the time, the Gleason's was in Manhattan then, and it was just so many people in the gym. But faces, So anyway, one day I walked in the gym. The gym had moved to Brooklyn by this time. I walked in the gym, and he's in the office with the owner, Ira Becker, and this guy, Bruce Silverglade. So long story short, Benji was an amateur referee at the time, and he had a team from New York that he had took to Canada. And they were supposed to do like a couple matches. So he told me the first night when they fought, the Canadian team they just killed the guys from New York. I mean, they was, the guys had a lot of experience. That most of the guys had 100+ fights, and they was fighting guys with 8, 9, 10 fights. So the deck really wasn't stacked equal, So long story short, he takes the van. They gave them a van. They flew up there in an airplane, and they gave them a brand new van to drive around in while they was there. So in the middle of the night, he takes the van and drives the kids back to New York. So now the owners, Bruce and Ira Becker Gleason's, they wanted me to drive the van back to Canada. So they paid me, and man, it became a big hassle. But anyway, Benji was the guy. So anyway, about a year later, I'm doing a job up in the Bronx court, and he thought I was going to court, and he, after we got through that, he asked me that I want to be a referee. So at the time, I had just saw a friend of mine named Earl Morton. Me and Earl Morton, we fought back in the Golden Gloves together back in 1976, 77, right? And I had just saw Earl on ESPN refereeing a fight, whereas he was separating the guys, and he was pushed the guys away, and one of the guys fell down as he was separating them. And I laughed and picked it up. I said, "Oh man, Earl is ref, man." You just say to yourself, "Oh man, I could do that," And then it was like I say, it was about I don't know how long after that, couple weeks, he gave me this. Asked me if I want to be a ref, and I said, "Okay, what I got to do?" He said, "Well, you got to come to a couple little seminars," and I went to 2 seminars, and I did my first fight. Probably a few weeks later, and my first fight was at East Orange High School. My first fight.
How ironic, yeah, how ironic.
My first amateur fight was at my my old high school.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I was.
How did it go? How did you do?
I had fights, man. I was so scared, man. Luckily, I had the JOs. I had, the JO kids. That's like 15 and under. They go by the age. So whatever the age limit is, the lower the age, the less time they fight. Like, they might fight a minute or a minute and a half, or 2 minutes is the most. So man, I had 2 fights and got out of there. Yeah, I was happy. I didn't have to count nobody. But anyway, I got through it, and then and we would do fights every weekend, every week on Fridays. So the next week was a different location I went. And what happened was something happened every night that would make me laugh.
Okay.
I mean, really laugh. And that's why I went back the following week. Because you got to remember, you're not getting any money with this. There's no money. There's no, there's nothing, nothing but time, aggravation. People don't sometimes appreciate what you're doing, man. And you got to have a love for it. But I think it wasn't until after probably the next year, when I went to my first National Golden Gloves tournament, that's when I knew I wanted to be a referee.
Mm-hmm.
When I came home from that tournament, I said to myself, I think this is what I want to do. Definitely as an amateur. So what I did was, that was in 95, I went to my first national tournament. And before I won the New Jersey Official of the Year award for the Golden Glove. Mm-hmm. And then we get to the Nationals. I won a national award, which really, man, it was like unexpected. And
wow,
me winning that national award, it was a little tiny little plaque, man, but it just meant so much because it was from the Nationals. I beat out 300 other referees from around the nation for that little thing, that little award. So I think that kind of boosted my confidence a whole lot. And then when I came back, and then the next year was 96. So I volunteered as in they had the Olympics in Atlanta that year. So I volunteered as volunteer, and I went to the Olympics, and I'm like, man, the Nationals is the Golden Gloves National was nothing but knockouts. I mean, I know the Olympics this is gonna be unbelievable, man. It was this worst disappointment of my life, man, because I couldn't referee as an amateur because as any amateurs, they have this thing called the AIBA guys who run boxing in the amateurs, and you had to be an AIBA official to referee in the Olympics. And at the time, it was 24 U.S. AIBA referees, and they only picked 4 guys to go to the Olympics. So I did the math, and I was like, okay, look, you got 24 guys. I got to wait till they give out the test to be an AIBA official. Then you got to pass the test. And then the Olympics come every 4 years. I'll be like, what? I'll be 90, man, by the time I'd be able to. So my thing was, I'm going to do this as long as I can, but, I just didn't want to be it. And then the way the AIBA guys conduct the refereeing is like, they made all those good fights just terrible, man. It wasn't not one knockout in the Olympics. I think I saw maybe one. Whereas in the Nationals, you got 3 rings right next to each other. You're looking at ring 2, and the guy's knocked out in ring 3. You look at ring 1, boom, he's knocked out. It was unbelievable. And they didn't have that same vibe in the Olympics because the way they stopped the fight so much. Oh, stop. It'd be a good fight. The guys stop. Oh, man. But, it was it was memorable, man. And I'm glad I did it for the experience, because I probably could never get through this professional level, without the amateurs, man, because You know, those are your growing years. You know, you get the fights from hell. You know, you gain that type of experience, and then you get in there with the guys that's going to be your top guys fighters today. You know, because they all come out of the Olympics, and you know, whether they participate in the Olympics or whether they you know, they didn't make the team, like a guy like a Terrence Crawford, those guys end up world champions anyway. You
Mm-hmm.
know, then you know, you get a chance to work with them. You know, so give an example. Those guys from 1996, I don't think none of them are around anymore. The only ones fighting is probably the guy from DC, and he shouldn't be fighting no more. Cooley, what's his name? Oh man, the guy from Washington D.C. I can't think of his name. Anyway, he's got about 70, 80 fights now.
But it's interesting. You made a point as far as your early. No, I say you Cooley, yeah. And I know you made a point in regards. It was interesting, like as an official, but even some of the young boxers, everybody's kind of on a come up together. Everybody kind of see each other coming up, whether it's the official or the boxer themselves there. Now, as far as you mentioned the flow, how important that is. I mean, again, I know you got to officiate and make, you know, some decisions while in the ring, but I know how important is it that you try to let them get the fight into some type of flow?
Well, that's, you know, that's my thing, and I've always been, you know, look, I'm gonna let you guys fight. You know what I mean? Just fight and leave me out of it, you know, and I'm gonna let you guys fight and do what you got to do, you know, but just don't try to put me in it. That's all. All I want to do is just move around and, you know, stop it when things get a little difficult. You know, if somebody get hurt, then we stop it before you get hurt. You know, it's you know, it's a fine line, man, and it's really hard, man, because sometimes, you know, like you have these promoters that make certain matches, man. You know, there are matches that are being made that should not be made, you know, and sometimes to salvage a show, you know, maybe they might allow this guy to fight this guy and possibly they shouldn't, you know. So it's a whole lot of responsibility that you just have to be ready for, man, you know, because anything can happen in there at any time, and the second you think it's not going to happen, it's a wrap.
Now, how's the progress as far as you guys, the officials being rated, and you get that call for that title fight or that big fight? Like how does that go down? Is it like X amount of years you got to put in, or rounds in the ring? Like how's that whole process?
That's kind of like a secret.
Okay.
That's well, not on my end, because that part I don't know, because you have to talk to the guys who's regulating this. Well, how it works is there is no like, okay, you're next. You know, they have a rotation of guys. Okay, let's say, you know, you may be due to work the next show, but let's say the next show is you know, the wrong type of guys for you. You know, so that's where you need a great commissioner. And, you know, fortunate for me, you know, I came into the boxing to work for the greatest commissioner in all of boxing. I mean, the whole world, Commissioner Larry has it. You know, there is not one person, commissioner or any other title you want to give him, who knows as much as he knows about boxing.
Yeah.
So to be fortunate, I'm very fortunate for that, because I mean, if you just look at the group of officials that's under him, you know, I mean, that speaks for itself. You know, but far as, you know, there, like I said, there is no like, okay, you've been a ref for 5 years, and now, or you've been with the organization for 6 years, and now, you know, right on the application, they tell you just by joining an organization doesn't automatically give you a fight. But eventually, you know, your time will come. And that's what Commissioner Hazard said. Give an example. I remember I did my first professional fight in January of 2000. And I remember, I don't know if it was in that year, it could have been the next year, 2001, but I remember the first time he called a boxing seminar for all the officials to come together. And I'm in this room in Trenton, New Jersey, and I'm saying, I'm looking around at all these officials, right? You had Tony Perez, Rudy Battle, you had Arthur McCanty, you had Frank Cappuccino, you had all of these guys, man. I mean, far as in those I'm listing as the older guys, the senior guys, right? Then you had guys that was kind of under them, you know, was like your Benji Esteves and Randy Newmans and all of these other guys, Eddie Cottons, you know. Then you had another level of guys, and I'm saying to myself, man, I ain't gonna never get no damn fights, you know. What all of these, I mean, really, I mean, if you probably, and I'm talking, it probably was about 35 guys in the room that day. So I'm saying, if you would have asked everybody how many years, how much experience you got in boxing, it probably been 5,000 years, man. It probably would have been 5,000 years. How many people was in there and all that experience? But that being said, like I said, I'm, you know, where I come from, you know, is just, I've been kind of taught to expect the worst, you know, because this way, if you plan for the worst, then you know, when the worst come, it might not be that bad, you know. But like I said, I'm looking around, I'm like, man, I probably never get no world title fighting up with all these guys. But anyway, I remember Mr. Hazard said, everybody here, you're going to get your opportunity. Trust me, everybody in this room is going to get their opportunity. He said, but the key is, you better be ready when your opportunity comes.
Right.
And I remember that to this day. And I patiently waited my turn, you know, and then he knows what he's doing. He knows how to do it. Matter of fact, I remember when he gave me my first main event fight. I was scared to death, man. I was like, you know, oh man, it's my first main event. But he did it. He did it very wisely. I mean, you know, he did it on a show. There was no TV. It was in Atlantic City, but it wasn't in the casinos. It was like a roller rink. Right? So this way, if you mess up, hey man, you messed up, but it ain't like, you know, 10 million people saw you mess up, you know? So he's got a way of, you know, doing things exactly the way they're supposed to be done, you know? And all you got to do is do your job and he's going to do his job. And then, like I say, once he give you the opportunity, as long as you don't fuck it up, you'll be back.
Obviously you didn't. How did that first main event fight go for you? I mean, how did you when you got done?
Because he knew it and I knew it. It was one of them fights. Whereas, you know, the guys get knocked out in the first or the second round, and that's exactly what happened. You know, it was one of them fights. Whereas, and it's a shame that sometimes, you know, you have fights like that. I mean, this is boxing; anything can happen. But you know, some shows, you know, it's just, you know, it is what it is, man. You know, sometimes you think they just found a guy across the street, you know, paid him a couple of dollars, and you know, that's how it goes, man. But like I said, Larry Hazard was the best thing for me, you know, to, like I said, I know definitely I would not be in this position I'm in without him because, you know, you can only learn but so much on your own, you know. You can watch, right, yeah, but sometimes you need direction, you know. And I remember one particular time, I was like, how do you know when you do a good job? Because he don't come and tell you, like, yeah, you did a great job or you did a good job. So how do you know? He said, well, did he talk to you? Did he call you over there? No. So we did a good job. When he calls you over there, that's when you fucked up. That's what they tell me. I said, okay. So all right, we had this fight one time. Rudy battles the ref. It's the main event. He's doing it. This is before I got that main event. He's doing the main event. And something happened. He stopped the fight. And then the fighter went a little berserk. Anyway, he says, Dave, I'm sitting there. Just come here. Oh shit. I'm like, damn, I had my 2-3 fights out. I'm done, man. I already changed my clothes. I'm like, oh man, what the fuck I do, man? I sat down. He said, sit down, man. I'm gonna tell you something. It's okay. He said, you saw how he stopped that fight, right? I said, yeah. He said, all right, I'm gonna tell you something. So you know, as a young referee, not to make the mistake that he just made. Then he told me that the mistake that he just made, and I was like, "This man's he's a genius," you know. And then I remember going back to the dressing room, and the official, he was pissed. You know, he's pissed with himself because you know what he did, man. You know, because sometimes you know it's like, you know, we have these life and death matters in our hands, you know, and
right.
like sometimes the fighter is hurt, and then when you stop it, especially when you got these fights that's not on TV, or where you can have the replay where it can be shown over and over. Okay, the guy, oh yeah, look, he was hurt. You know what I mean? Referee did, you know, he made a good call. You know, but when you get one of these, there's no TV, there's no screen, there's nothing. So if you wasn't watching, so what happened was the guy was hurt. Yeah, Mr. Hazard said what he should have done was continue count. He was giving the guy a count. The guy was hurt, got knocked down. He was counting him out. And as he got to 6 or 7, instead of continuing, he waved it off. And then when the kid got to his feet, he was pissed. He still messed up. He pushed the ref in the back, and you know, that's when, you know, then the crowd, all it takes is one person to boo. Now the whole stadium is boo.
Right.
What we booing for? What we booing for? Nobody know, but we booing, boo, right? You know, so that's particularly what happened. So, and then you got those close ones like that, man. Whereas, you know, you threaten a thin line. Whereas you don't want this guy to get beat up. You definitely don't want him to get hurt. But at the same time, you know, you don't want to stop the fight too soon. You don't want to stop it too late. So it's really hard to be on that fine line, man, right in the middle.
Yeah, because I know you got to err on the side of safety. I mean, I know
right.
that's prominent.
And nobody wants to hear that shit at the end of the day.
Oh no, you're right. Yeah.
Oh no. You got to be right on time, man. You know, because you know you can say that, but the people be like, yeah, man, I don't want to hear that shit. Fighter don't want.
They don't want to hear it, right?
You know, and then who knows, you know, what you have done. You know what I mean? You may have messed up his money for the rest of his life. You know what I mean? You may have just closed a chapter in his life that he'll never get again. Because, you know, this was the fight, you know, and now you stopped it. Whereas, hey, man, you know, the guy, like in that case with the other fighter, you know, all the dude had to do was keep counting, and he wouldn't have beat the count. You know, because my man was already like at 6 or 7. But, you know, when you give you know, once the fight is over, then the guy got time to get himself together. Oh, what the heck you doing? You know what I mean? It can get crazy, man.
Now, you think you could have become a ref without ever boxing yourself? Because I know people see that totally. People see that a lot of different ways.
Yes and no. Yes, because there are guys out there that never box, and there's particular a couple good referees. One, Benji Esteves, never fought. great referee, never fought. But I think it's harder, because there's another a guy that came under me in the amateurs that he never fought, and with him, even the maybe 10 plus years he spent in the amateurs, and after a while, it's supposed to get whereas, you're not scared no more. Where he's nervous. I mean, he's like nervous every fight.
Yeah.
So my thing is maybe if he had a fighter's background, or he was an amateur fighter, or maybe he wouldn't had as much fear as he has. Of course, sometimes, you don't really get nervous. You get anxious. It's like, let's go, man. It's just, I don't know. Some people get nervous. Me, it's just like I just for me, it's just waiting. Because sometimes when you got the last fight, you got to wait. Till the last fight is over, and well, not the last fight, but the next to the last fight. Just a lot of time just to sitting there and doing nothing, man.
Right. Now, your first title fight, how was that for you?
Man, let me tell you, man, my first all the fights I've done, that is the most memorable fight because I knew the fight itself wasn't going to be a problem for me, but what I was really what I was nervous about is having to go to the dressing room. See, because when you do title fights, now you got to go to the dressing room.
Yeah.
Now you got to give the instructions to the fighter, not the little 3 seconds instructions you're giving them in the ring when you're about to start the fight. I mean, the instructions as far as the rules, you got to go over the rules. So, I was going over the rules that week, man, with myself, practicing with different people. And man, I was like, I don't have it as smooth as I have it now. Now I got a pattern, like I start from the top, go to the bottom, and I do it the same way every time. But back then it was like, so I can see like, you go there, you got the, because it's bad enough, you got the fighters and all his people there. Now you're going in there with the commissioner. You're going in there with his people, and then you got the what do you call it? The supervisor from the organization who for what belt they fighting on. They're there, So it's a big thing. And then sometimes there might be a TV camera in there focusing, the white.
Yeah.
Just, oh man, all the time, man. You just happen to come in there while they interviewing him or somebody, so they want to stand there and listen to what you say. But anyway, it was really nervous. I was nervous because I was like, and I went over every room. You're supposed to kind of shorten it up, man. Come on, man. Let's go. Come on, man. So, but I was like. Once I got out of there, man, I was like, man, fight is piece of cake now, man. Fight was piece of cake. And my first world title, I did 2 women title fights first, but my first men's title fight was Antonio Margarito and this guy Sebastian Lujan. I don't know if you saw this fight. You can go to it on ESPN. Anyway, I think it's around the 9th or the 10th round. Margarita punches him, right? And I'm looking, and it looks like a big glob of blood just dropped down his ear. I was like, what the fuck was that? So, all right, they fight, the Margarita's on him, and the other guy is bobbing and weaving, trying not to get hit. So I'm going in and out, and then I look, his ear is shaking, man. His ear was hanging off of his thing. Margarita hit him and knocked his ear off, man. His ear almost came off. It was
literally, yeah.
they had to sew it back on. So anyway, I get back and I look, and then I call timeout, take him to the doctor, and then the corner guy just ran up and threw the towel in. Fight's over, and then I'm looking, his whole ear is hanging down, man. And I was like, whoa, there's shit here, man. But,
now, something with that, like even post-fight, is it something like a written report, or do you got to write out like write out anything on your end, or that's another hand?
Doctor thing, man. That's just for the doctors, man.
Okay.
What they do, man. So thankfully for us, I mean, ain't got nothing to do with that. They took him to the hospital. I saw him the next day. He had a big thing on his ear, man. It was like they had to sew it back on. I couldn't believe it, man.
Nah, interesting. And I know, even with that being said, it's just how many title fights have you had to date? Do you know?
No, I stopped counting, man. I stopped counting a while ago.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
I stopped counting a while ago, because at first, you don't want to say you got one and you got two, and then when you get to like 8, 9, I don't know, man.
Yeah. How's your family been with all of this as far as this journey, as far as the officiating part? 'Cause I know it was a lot of, sacrificing on everybody's part.
Yeah, I mean, they're good on it. My family's good. I mean, I'm fortunate. I took took my grandson a few years ago to Italy to the IBF convention. They travel with me when we go to these conventions. I can't, I wish, like when I get an opportunity to do a fight out of the country, I wish I could take them, one day it will, but usually like sometimes, when you get to know, man, it's, you kind of like leaving in about 2 weeks anyway. So it's kind of hard to, put the tickets together, and then, you're going to another country, you want to be on the same plane, and you would like to be at the same, sit next to each other, so all that is a little rough, but.
Now, even boxing itself, like whether it was officiating or actually being the boxer here, like what is boxing giving you that's stuck with you to this day regarding your life, as far as what has it given you?
Well, the first thing I'd say it gave me to not fear anything.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been scared of anything or anybody since I was 15 years old. When I learned how to box at 15 years old, I remember when I had my first street fight. After going to the gym a couple months, this older guy, he was a man. He started a fight with a 15-year-old and he got knocked out. And after that day, my life changed. Whereas I knew that this stuff that I'm doing is a little special. You start to, and as a teen, you start to feel yourself a little bit. You know what I mean? It just teaches you discipline, man. It was one you don't go out and start fights, because you don't start fights because you don't know who you're starting to fight with.
Mm-hmm.
You're starting to fight with a ninja, a guy who got a gun in his pocket. So that was a thing. One of the main things it did. It taught you discipline. It taught you to be fearless, it taught you respect, because even though, it seems a little different, you can respect the guy. Some people find it hard, but, you two guys can go in there and don't want to touch gloves, hate each other, but then they'll fight, and after the fight, they'll hug each other. Sometimes these guys end up being best friends down the road. It's a beautiful sport, and it does things to you, man, and does some not so things to you too, man. As far as just getting, trying to stay right, man. So just trying to walk a straight line, try to be an example for, my kids, my grandkids, so you can't be out there doing stuff that you expect them not to do.
Right. That's right. That's right. Has anybody in your family picked up the sport since you?
My son played basketball. I didn't want him to be a fighter. Tried to teach him how to fight. So he wouldn't, but he was a hard hit guy, so luckily he did, because this boxing, man, because see, like you can get involved in the sport of boxing, man, and it could take you to some good places and could take you to some bad places, so, and it's like I didn't want him to be a fighter, same way like my firstborn, my daughter, I wanted a girl, didn't want no boys. I want a boy going up through the same shit I had to go through, man. No, life was rough, man. I want a girl. Girls is smart. They want to go to school. See, guys, guys get with their friends, and sometimes the friends can influence you, make you do things you don't want to do, and didn't want that, man. And like I said, I got blessed with a girl, and they like 11 years apart, so. Didn't want, but I had to train my brother though, because my brother.
Yeah, I was gonna get to that. I know he told me a story as far as one incident you had him in the gym. Mike, you had he had me laughing about that. He shared one. He was like, ask my brother about it. I know he had something happened in the gym when you was training him. I know one time.
All right. Well, before the gym, this one time. Now, he's the youngest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then my brother Terry was older than him. So, and then my oldest brother is 5 years older than me. So what happened was one day there was an older guy my age, and he had 3 brothers.
Okay.
Right. So this guy beat up my brother Terry. Right. No, I forgot how it went. No. The younger brother beat Lenny up, my brother Lenny, Michael, beat Michael up. Michael went and got Terry. The older brother beat Terry up. So they came and got me. So then I knocked out the older brother. Yeah, man. I mean, didn't want to do it, man, but the guy left me no choice, man. It's like I said, I never, till this day, I never started a fight since I was 10 years old.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, nah. And to your point here, I mean, with that sport, there, to your point, is something that you develop the discipline and you on chill because you're not going out trying to start any trouble, but it's just something one of your in your toolbox that you have, and when needed, no, definitely here. I know. I appreciate the time here. You got a few more minutes for me?
Yes, sir, bro.
Cool. I like to just towards the end here, just put people on the spot here, just have some fun, some random questions. You're probably like, what the hell is he asking me this for? But just first thing or things that just come to mind here with these questions here, if that's cool.
All right.
Cool. So being a Jersey guy, when you're in Jersey driving, Parkway or Turnpike?
Turnpike.
When boxing, you put boxing on pause from watching it, reffing, or whatever the case is. What do you like to do with yourself? What do you do with yourself?
Man, time goes so fast, man, because I work, man. I usually work 6-7 days a week, man. Really, I loved the main thing I loved working with the kids when I was training the kids when we had the gym for Larry Hazard Combat. So that was probably the best job I had, is teaching kids. And what it is when you're teaching them now and then you see them, 10 years from now, young adults, so you know how you've shaped some of their lives. Like there's one in particular guy, me and Mike trained, he just became a police officer.
Mm-hmm.
Another one, he joined the Division of Homeland Security, out there in Pennsylvania. Well, this guy, he was our first and only national champion. I mean, we had some great kids, man. And we also, we saved a lot of kids. It was, at that time in Newark, they were shooting every day, across the street from the gym. Guys was getting shot every day, and but the area knew, not to mess with those kids that come out of that gym.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in the streets, the streets has taken a lot of kids, and the streets has always been the same way. Like I said, back in my day, nothing changes. The only thing changes is haircuts and styles of clothes, and the names of different things, but when you got drugs and poverty and some kids feel like they got no choice or no direction, they just go whichever way they want to go, man. But
Yeah.
and things work out, man.
No, they
I would
do.
teaching, training kids again. I mean, I had to. It just takes a lot out of you, man. It takes a lot out of you, man. Because guys, kids come and go, man. It takes a lot.
Nah, it does. It definitely does, and it takes special people to want to endure and see the thing through, see everything through as well too. So definitely it's a combination of a lot of things there. Absolutely, absolutely. Amateur or professional boxing?
Oh, professional, no doubt, man.
Mm-hmm. What's the big difference besides the check, probably?
Well, no check. One for the check. The amateurs is so bad. These AIBA guys, they've messed up boxing for so long in the amateurs, so many years, so long. I mean, can't get it right. Do we fight with headgears? No headgears. Shirts? No shirts. Do we go 4 rounds? Do we go 3 rounds? I mean, this is 2 minutes. This is 3 minutes. I mean, for the last 25 years, they just totally changed the amateur program so many times for money, for whatever, the weight classes. You know why they changed the weight classes in the amateurs? To save us, to save a seat, to save one ticket price. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna change these different weight classes. That makes absolutely no sense. So you got kids doing things to try to lose weight, get out of the weight class they can wait. The structure, how they send these kids to these tournaments is everything is just totally just crazy. And then there's no honesty in it. Paying people off or different things is just the whole amateur program is just. I mean, it's good. You got the fights to get the kids to fights. That's great. But the guys who run it, the top guys, the AIBA guys, they just don't know what they're doing. And boxing is the only sport where you can take a guy who knows absolutely nothing about boxing, and then he can be in charge of anything. Someone's life, someone's future, and the whole state. They can control anything and don't know anything about the sport. Well, that's
say that. Yeah. Now, interesting you say that. That's other businesses as well too. But it's interesting, like you say, you just put people somewhere for whatever reason, or who he or she knows. Nah, you're right. You're right.
So you couldn't let me go be the manager of the New York Yankees. first thing they say, what does this dude know about baseball?
Mm-hmm.
What does he know about baseball? I'm like, well, it's hot when they play it, right?
Yes, yes. Now, weight classes. Speaking of weight classes, well, what weight class you prefer to officiate?
Um, it really doesn't matter, I like the heavyweights because heavyweights, you get a heavyweight check. You know what I mean? Why you like that? It's it really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? I don't want to say I like this better than that, but sometimes heavyweights is a pain in that butt the ref because sometimes they want to hold and clinch and they can make the fight really like boring. Then sometimes you get them little guys that don't clinch at all. I remember I had a couple of fights that I had 122 pounders. I think I said break one time.
Yeah.
All they do is fight, throw punches, blah 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 blah. Love those fights. So sometimes like I said, you would say heavyweight because there's a difference between a heavyweight check and a lightweight check. But really, man, it doesn't matter to me.
Okay. Now, what's the best boxing match you ever officiated? Does anything stick out like I nailed this one?
Joshua and Klitschko fight. That was one.
Yeah.
That was,
speaking of heavyweights, huh?
Yeah. Well, that it was just so many things. It was so many things that happened before the fight where the fight almost didn't happen for me. Is why that one is kind of special, other than my one where my first title fight. Because to be honest with you, man, first of all, there was this big secret about the fight. So I had a guy call me from the IBF and ask me for my age because it was a guy that they had picked to do the fight, but he was, I'm guessing, was over 65 because when the guy told me, he said, over there in England, they have a rule that the referee can't be older than 65 older, I think it was. So first thing he asked me was, what was my age, date of birth. So then I had to wait for, I think it was 33 or 35 days of not saying anything to nobody. Because, so I get a call, I don't know, maybe a week before the fight, and he tells me I got the fight. So I go tell my wife, and I'm like, I told her to sit down, so I'm messing with her. I said, look, I've been keeping something from you for like 33, 35 days now.
Yeah, be careful how you say that. Yeah.
Boy, if you just saw the smile on her face go from smile to like,
yeah.
So I'm pausing it. Then I told her, and she's like, "Boy, I'll kill you, boy." But anyway, what another thing was, okay, I'm on the plane. I'm on the plane. We're going to England. On the plane. Now you know how, especially in Newark, when you leave out of Newark or Kennedy, you're on the runway for seemed like an hour, right? So you know how you get to that part, you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and you get to that straightaway,
yes.
Right? Where you're about to pull off at high speeds so the plane can lift off, right? I've been flying so long, because like I said, this my first time on the plane was doing boxing, going to the Nationals, the Golden Gloves as an amateur. But anyway, I say my little prayers and I got it down to a T, whereas and what they say is the most important thing is takeoff and landing. So I'm asking God, please, protect me for this takeoff. And as I'm at that point, he slams on the brakes. The pilot, yo, everybody, you know, goes forward. Your head hit the seat in front of you. Then he calmly stops the plane and he says, "Oh, yo, something's wrong with this." And he says, "Oh, there's been some little technical difficulties, blah blah blah. We're gonna go back to the we're gonna go back where we just came from, and we're gonna either have somebody check the plane out, either they're gonna send us a new plane, or they're gonna repair this one." So we deplane, go back in the thing. So now I know something's wrong. I've been on too many planes. If this motherfucker get ready to take off and he slams on the brake, something is definitely wrong.
Yes.
So now I call Mike, my brother. Of course, he don't answer the phone. Call the wife, she don't answer the phone. I got to tell somebody about it. So now it's like this. I got to make this choice. See, I already know there's no new plane coming, because if there was a new plane, they wouldn't have had us on this shitty plane right here, right? So there's no new plane coming. So now I got to ask myself, are you willing to get back on this same plane to go all the way to England? The same plane, because all they're going to do is try to fix it.
Right.
So am I going to get on this same goddamn plane? I don't know. So this lady was probably thinking the same way. And we start looking at each other. And so, like I said, I need somebody to talk to. Nobody's answering the phone. So I call Larry Hassett. Yo, this is what happened. What? So now I put it to him. Now, they talking about getting us another plane or fixing it. So, should I get back on this plane? Oh, Dave, man, I don't know, man. You know what I mean? So we talked for a minute, man, and I'm like, he said, well, Dave, I said, well, you know, I'm going to put it this way. I said, if God wanted me to crash in that airplane, he wouldn't have stopped that plane. You got me? We would have just lifted off and got in the air, and then the plane would have crashed. So if God wanted me to die in an airplane, he wouldn't have did what he did to make that guy slam on them brakes. So that's why I had to keep telling myself for the next 2 hours. And then I ended up getting on that same damn plane and got to England, because that was the other thing. Had I missed that flight, right, the one the next day, I'd have got there too late. Because they wanted me there the following day. So
yeah. Nah, it worked out.
It worked out, man.
Yeah,
man.
now, yeah, I could, yeah, that's a tough decision, but like you said, it worked out, and like you said, if it was meant to be something else, it would have been. Yeah.
So.
Ooh. Now, well, as far as even in the game of boxing or what have you, do you agree with the scoring system?
Yeah, how it's supposed to be done, yes. How some people scores is, see, I got a little thing with that too, because, like, give an example. Let's say you got the TV commentator, right? Let's don't say no names, but let's say ESPN or Showtime, one of them. You got the announcers, they're talking, they're broadcasting the fight, and they're also trying to score at the same time. Okay? So now the fight is over, but one of the judges' scorecards doesn't agree with his scorecard. Right? Now, the guys at HBO used to really piss me off with this. Now, first of all, are you a judge? Are you a professional judge? And the answer is no, they are not. But the guy who's turning the score is. Okay, so how is your score right and his score wrong? He's a professional. You getting paid to commentate. But how is it your score is always right but his score may be off. Now, I'm not defending nobody because scores is crazy. You know, some guy may have you winning 8 rounds, other guy may have the other guy winning the same 8 rounds. So, you know, I don't, but my thing is when these guys claim that their score is the one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't have, if you didn't see it the way we saw it, because usually the guy you're talking about is their fighter, their ESPN fighter or their Showtime fighter. You got me? So if you don't have him winning and we have him winning, then there's a problem with your scoring, which I got, you know, I find that little thing. But also, you have to be a judge, man. And it's really rough being a judge. It's really rough because I'm going to tell a story, man. This one time, see, in the amateurs, you're either, when you're not a referee, in amateurs, you're a referee and a judge. So
Okay.
when you're refereeing, you're judging.
Mm-hmm.
And you're a timekeeper too, sometimes. So basic, give an example. So this one time, I'm judging the fight. I'm at the Golden Gloves, and next thing you know, I'm looking at the fight, I'm watching it, and then it hits me. Oh shit, I left the iron on. Oh shit, I'm slamming the desk. I left the iron on.
Mm-hmm.
This is fighting. And now all I'm thinking about is the iron. I left the iron on. The house is gonna burn down. My house is on fire now. Or it's gonna be fire by the time this fight is over, right? So next thing you know, the bell rings. Bing! Round's over. Oh shit. I've been tripping on this iron for the last 30 seconds or longer. How long has I not been paying attention? Right?
Right.
I have to give the round to somebody. I have to.
You
got paper. You got to turn in that paper. Now, in the amateurs, you don't turn it in like the pros do. Now, pros got to hand it in as soon as that bell rings. At least the amateurs, I got you turn it in at the very end, you know, after 3 rounds is over. So what I did was the guy who won the first round, I gave the second round to the other guy, right? And whoever wins the third round wins the fight. Now, it's not the right thing to do, but what else can I do? And I think that's what happens to some judges when they're scoring a fight. See, because I remember we doing 1,000 things at the same time. Guys is talking on his phone, they typing. Mother could be cooking on his phone, watching the kids, doing this, making dinner, you know, all at the same time. So now you sit down to do one thing and it's like, man, you know, so as soon as your mind wanders for that second, it can be a second, but the second that bell ring, you don't know how long you've been daydreaming.
Mm-hmm.
So now you can't even remember none of the round because now you've been thinking so hard. Shit, I done did it again. I can't believe I did it again. This happened to me, man, 2-3 times. Well, it got to the point where if I didn't have to be a judge, I didn't judge the amateurs. I just refed because I didn't want to do it, you know, because I don't want to take away from somebody's, you know, from somebody's win. Because, you know, and people don't realize it until they've been on that thing, man. I remember losing fights as an amateur, man. And let me tell you, man, we went outside and did some crazy stuff because we lost. Whereas if we won, we wouldn't have did what we did. But we went out and did some stupid stuff because we lost, you know. And now you might have actually won the fight, but you got a judge that really wasn't paying attention, you know what I mean, or any type of thing that might happen. So it's really rough, you know. And then I remember there was a lady judge from New Jersey when Holyfield fought Riddick Bowe, I think it was. Holyfield and Bowe? And no, Lennox Lewis and Holyfield. And the lady judge gave one of the rounds to Holyfield, and that was the worst round. Holyfield got beat that round, the whole fight. And they was like, how did you give the fight? How did you get this round to Holyfield? You know, so now she's on the spot, man. And then, you know, your life ain't the same after that, you know. So, I mean, I take my hats off to the judges because this is a rough sport. You know, I mean, it's a misconception about the, what is that, CompuBox. I mean, now some fights, you can count punches, man. But there are some fights with little guys, there's no way possible. You could tell me this dude got hit with 67 punches the first round. 3 of them was jabs. The other 16 was right hands. You know, because sometimes even as a judge, you know, it's on that angle where you're at. You don't see the punch.
Right.
If the guy doing the CompuBox is on this side of the ring and the fighters is on the far other corner, how can he count? How can you see what actually every shot they actually hit a guy? You can't. I remember in the amateurs, they told us, like, if you jab, when we was doing a little computer scoring, if you jabbed them and the head went back like that, but you didn't see the punch, you're not supposed to count it.
Okay.
So judging is, man, I take my hat off to those guys. I mean, I wouldn't want to do it. I mean, like I said, it can be done, but for me, like I said, one day I'll be a judge. One day, then somebody will play this tape and be like,
Yeah. You better make sure. Get on. You be like, make sure that iron turned off before you do anything.
Nah. It happens, man. And it was another night. I remember this guy walked in the arena, and I thought it was a girl. This girl walked into the arena, man, and oh my God, I couldn't believe it, man. I followed her all the way to her seat. I was like, oh my God, and I was like, ding. Oh man, you can't believe. This is the funniest one. Now, there's one time I had my cousin's kids. I had my little son, my cousin. I had 4 kids with me, young kids, right? They on the other side of the gym while we doing the fights. I'm sitting in the chair, right, judging. And I just happen to glance over and I see my little cousin with his hands up fighting. He's fighting. Now I'm trying to judge this fight. And my cousin is over here fighting. They like 10 years old, 11. They in the back fighting with some, and I'm like, what do I do? Do I jump out the chair? What's my cousin going? My cousin's gonna kill me. I come home, my son has got a knot on his eye or something. You know what I mean? And I'm supposed to be watching them. Oh man.
Yeah. It's a lot of multitasking. Yeah. I know you've been asked this. Your top 5 fighters, your top 5 favorites. Who are your favorites?
Man. Oh, fight type 5 favorites. You're not talking about people fighting now, are you?
If you have one of them is now, that's cool. But just of all time, who you have?
My top favorites would be Ray Robinson, number 1. I can watch his fights all day long. Ray Robinson. I liked Ali. I liked. Of course, you got to throw Marvin Hagler in there. 3 or 4. I like Wilfredo Benitez. I like the art of boxing, the skill of boxing. I boxed Benitez before in New York too, and the thing of just, you know, getting in somebody's face and they can't hit you, man. They hit and not get hit. You know, that's what I loved about boxing. You know, I favor a slick guy more than the banger. You know, so. And see, that's how I think the judges are too, because everybody favors something. You know, if you was a banger, then you like those guys that come forward. Like me, if I may favor the slick boxer over the banger.
Okay.
So I think that's what sets apart the scores in boxing. You know, whereas if you like a banger, you like a boxer. Like a guy who's a banger, he think the guy boxing is running. You know, so he's not gonna like that. So he's always gonna favor the guy going forward. So
You got one more.
uh-huh.
One more.
Oh man. I actually like Jersey Joe. I love me some Jersey Joe walkout. I love the way he used to make them step, bam, you know. He just was slick. And the fight when Marciano knocks him out, man, have you watched that fight before?
The Marciano one with him, though.
Man, he's beating the crap out of Marciano. When they talk about a lucky punch, he's beat the crap out of Marciano, but Marciano knocks him out, wins the fight. And that's boxing, man. So like I said, you could lose every round, and last round, you get knocked out, it's over.
Yeah. What's best part about being Dave Fields?
Best part about being me. I don't think there is no best part, man. Nah, best part about being me is, I guess, people know I don't take no shit, man. You know? I think the best part, they know, people that know me, they know not to ask me stupid shit, you know. Stupid.
Right.
You know.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you had a book on your life, what would you call it?
Oh man, and you know, I'm when I'm done with this, I'm definitely gonna write one, man. I'm definitely gonna write one because I definitely had some adventures, you know, traveling, boxing, man. It would be something with the world included because you know I traveled the world boxing as a fighter, as an official, you know. So it'd be something about traveling in the world, man. I had to come up with a little catchy little phrase, man.
Okay. Now, at this point in your life here, what would this Dave Fields, what would you tell that 17, 18-year-old Dave Fields? What advice would you give him?
I would tell him, you know, I would tell him to believe in himself, to work hard. It's one thing Marvin Hagler told me. He wrote it on a picture he gave me. He wrote, work hard, put in quotation marks. But see, that was one thing I didn't do because, see, I don't know what it was. Boxing was easy for me.
Okay.
So it was so easy, especially boxing with guys like him. I didn't put in the work that I should have put in. Know what I mean? I did the bare minimum. You know, I went to the gym, I boxed who I needed to box. You know what I mean? If you didn't tell me, you know, if you didn't tell me to, you know, do another round, you know, if you told me to do 2 rounds, I do 2 rounds. I wouldn't do 3, you know. As a youngster, I would, you know, I would tell them, stay away from drugs. You know what I mean? Stay away from bad people, negative people, and believe in yourself. And you gotta find somebody who actually knows boxing. Because if I had the older brother that was in the new boxing, you got like there's mistakes I made. Whereas if I had that somebody who was a fighter in the family, I wouldn't have made those mistakes. Like give an example. I was boxing everybody for money in the gym, you know. And if somebody would have told me, look, man, you need to fight at the same time, You know what I mean? You need to fight. You just can't help everybody else get in shape. You know what I mean? But it was money, man. You know, guys is, you know, giving you $800 a week to, you know, come to Miami or go somewhere or wherever the place to go train. You go do it, man, you know? And then you kind of secluded and, you know, people don't tell you things you need to know, man. And then, you know, you got a lot of people out there that's just, you don't know what to believe. You don't know who to believe. And then when you believe somebody, you believe in the wrong person.
Yeah, yeah. Now, well said. Now, well said. Mr. Fields, this has been an honor. I mean, for me to just sit here and listen to this. I mean, and like you mentioned a few times, like the game of boxing, excuse me, that's taking you all over the world. You know, seen a whole lot of things, fights, and just the in between the fights and everything else here. Just but and I know this is only a tiny bit of your world here that we just talked about a little bit, but this tiny bit here, like I said, I'm just so flattered to have the opportunity to chop it up with you for a little bit here, just about it. So again, I just want to say thank you. You know, I really, really appreciate you just taking time out to talk to me. And when you get that book off the ground, definitely you gotta buy it in me too. So, but I definitely wanted to say thank you for everything. I mean, just sharing a little bit here, knowing that you didn't have to. So, like I said, I'm really just taken back by all of this. So, I just want to say thank you.
All right, man. Nice seeing you, brother. We'll do this again, man.
No, no, definitely, definitely. So, I'll be in touch one way or another. You mentioned the officiating thing. It's interesting because I actually have an association. Sports officials that I do a lot of stuff. I could talk offline about that, but you know what I mean. So which is interesting that I connected with an official here. Like I do other sports. I'm not in the professional ranks, but again, some of that stuff, like you know, I kind of get an idea about when it comes to officiating and the pressures that's on officials, no matter what level it is. You know,
Right.
so like I said, so I definitely chop it up with you offline about that. But regarding this and my time with you now, yeah, I couldn't ask for a better few hours. I was about to say a few hours, just time to spend with you here. But thank you.
All right, my brother.
We'll talk.
Thank you.
All
Peace.
right, peace, peace. Yeah, yeah. Blessings just continue. Like I said, I'm just taking back. Like I said, great, great. I mean, world of boxing and where it's taking them and everything else. You know, Dave Fields here. Like I said, look forward to what's next and what's on deck for him here. You know, with that being said, I'm gonna slide on out. I put my hand over my heart. That means I feel you. Yeah.